Welcome to the TBC podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like for more audiobooks. Today we're going to be diving deep into some pretty profound concepts like spiritual enlightenment and the paths to get there.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be drawing wisdom from Eastern traditions and theosophical teachings.
Okay.
You could say we're kind of exploring a secret guidebook filled with whispers from ancient mystics.
Yeah, I like that.
And here's the twist. It doesn't just lay out one path to liberation, but two distinct paths, each with its own unique challenges and rewards.
Yeah, you know what's really intriguing about the text we're going to be looking at called The Voice of the Silence is how it emphasizes the individual's journey. It recognizes that every soul has its own unique path to tread, not in a self-centered way, but in a way that acknowledges the beautiful diversity of spiritual seeking.
Okay, so let's dive into this Voice of the Silence. It sounds like a roadmap for those seeking enlightenment.
Right.
But you mentioned T-Do-Yo paths. Most spiritual traditions seem to focus on just one.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Well, the text contrasts what it calls the path of knowledge, which is all about seeking enlightenment for personal liberation, with the path of compassion.
Okay.
And on that path, the goal is to help all beings achieve liberation, even if it means delaying your own nirvana. It's almost like choosing between becoming a solo climber, focused on reaching the summit, or a mountain guide dedicated to helping others ascend as well.
So picture a lone ascetic meditating in a cave seeking wisdom and solitude.
Yeah.
That's the path of knowledge in action.
Yeah.
But then imagine a teacher like the Buddha who, after achieving enlightenment, chose to share his insights with the world, guiding countless others towards awakening. That's the essence of the path of compassion, right?
Exactly. And what's important to understand is that the text doesn't present one as superior to the other.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding the motivations and sacrifices inherent in each path.
Right.
It's like choosing between two equally challenging but ultimately rewarding journeys.
That makes me think of the common idea that spiritual enlightenment requires detaching from everything, worldly love relationships, even compassion. Does the Voice of the Silence share that view?
Actually, that's one of the misconceptions that it directly addresses.
Huh.
The text actually refutes the idea that achieving arhatship, a high level of spiritual attainment, often associated with complete liberation from suffering, requires ceasing to love all beings.
Oh, okay.
In fact, it clarifies that hating one's family or renouncing compassion is not the path to liberation at all. Think of it this way: if enlightenment meant severing all connections and becoming indifferent to the world, wouldn't that contradict the very essence of compassion and interconnectedness that many spiritual traditions emphasize?
So if it's not about becoming completely emotionless, what is the core message here? What does it actually mean to pursue spiritual growth?
Well, the central theme that runs throughout the text is this concept of killing out desire. It sounds pretty intense, I know,
Yeah.
but it's more about transformation than eradication.
Killing out desire sounds like something a Sith Lord would say. It brings to mind images of suppressing all emotions and becoming like a robot. Is that really what's being advocated here?
Not at all. Remember, we're talking about Eastern traditions here, where nuance and symbolism are key. The text isn't advocating for suppressing all emotions or becoming robotic. It's about shifting our relationship with desire, transforming it from attachment to the material world into a powerful aspiration for spiritual growth. Imagine a blacksmith taking a rough piece of metal and hammering it, shaping it into a beautiful, refined sword. That's the kind of transformation we're talking about.
So it's not about eliminating desire, but refining it, redirecting it towards a higher purpose.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that? What does that kind of transformation look like in practice?
Think of it like this. Imagine you're completely engrossed in a captivating book or lost in the flow of creating something you love. In those moments, you're not thinking about external desires or distractions. You're fully present, absorbed in something greater than yourself. That's a taste of what it means to refine desire, to channel it towards something meaningful and fulfilling.
Okay, that makes sense.
Uh.
It's about recognizing that desire itself isn't the problem. It's how we relate to it. So instead of being ruled by our desires, we can learn to harness them to direct them towards our spiritual goals.
Exactly. And this is where the text's warnings about the mind come into play. It reminds us that the mind left untamed can become a runaway chariot driven by desires and illusions, pulling the soul in all sorts of wrong directions. But when we learn to discipline the mind, to train our attention and focus, it becomes a powerful tool for spiritual progress.
That makes me think of the image of a wild horse. If you try to break its spirit, it will resist and rebel. But if you learn to work with its energy to guide it with a gentle but firm hand, you can ride it to incredible places.
That's a wonderful analogy. And speaking of powerful forces, this is where the concept of Kundalini comes in. It's often described as a fiery power that lies dormant within us, but when awakened can lead to profound spiritual experiences.
Kundalini. Okay, I've heard that term thrown around in yoga classes and spiritual circles, but honestly, I'm a bit fuzzy on what it actually means. Could you break it down for us?
Think of Kundalini as a potent energy source coiled at the base of the spine, waiting to be awakened.
Hmm.
In some traditions, it's symbolized as a serpent because when it's activated, it's said to rise up the spine like a serpent uncoiling, activating various energy centers along the way.
Whoa, that sounds intense. So how do you awaken this fiery power and what happens when you do?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. The text emphasizes that Kundalini is a force to be approached with caution and respect.
Right.
It requires proper guidance and preparation, like handling a powerful electrical current. You wouldn't want to mess around with live wires without knowing what you're doing right.
Definitely not. So you're saying that trying to awaken Kundalini without the right knowledge or guidance could be dangerous?
That's what the text seems to suggest. It stresses the importance of finding genuine spiritual teachers who can guide us safely and effectively on this path. Think of it like embarking on a challenging mountain climb. You wouldn't attempt it without an experienced guide who knows the terrain, the potential hazards, and the best techniques for navigating the ascent.
That's a great analogy. So we've got these two paths to choose from and this powerful energy within us that can be both a catalyst for growth and a potential danger. But how do we actually move forward on this spiritual journey? Does the voice of the silence give us any practical steps to take?
It does. It introduces this fascinating concept of the 7 portals on the path to spiritual enlightenment.
7 portals. It sounds like something out of a mystical video game.
Yeah.
Each portal representing a stage we need to pass through on our quest for enlightenment.
Exactly. Think of each portal as a stage of spiritual development, and to pass through each one, we need to find the right key, which in this context refers to a specific virtue or quality we need to cultivate.
So it's like leveling up in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
Each portal requiring us to master a new skill or ability. I'm intrigued. What are these keys, and how do we use them to unlock our spiritual potential?
The text describes 7 keys, each representing a quality we need to develop to progress on the path. These are charity, moral conduct, patience, energy contemplation, wisdom, and compassion. And what's interesting is that these aren't some esoteric, otherworldly virtues. They're practical, everyday qualities that we can cultivate in our daily lives.
That's encouraging. It's not some abstract, unattainable ideal. So you're saying that even if we're not meditating in a cave, we can still start applying these principles and begin our journey towards spiritual growth.
Absolutely. The journey begins with understanding ourselves, our desires, our thoughts, our habits, our patterns, and that journey can start right here, right now, in the midst of our everyday lives.
This is fascinating stuff. I'm eager to learn more about these 7 portals and how we can use these keys to unlock our own spiritual potential.
I think you'll find it incredibly insightful. The teachings in the Voice of the Silence offer a profound and practical guide for anyone seeking to deepen their understanding of themselves and the universe, regardless of their chosen path. Let's delve into those 7 portals you mentioned. Each represents a stage of spiritual development, and as you said, each has a specific key or virtue we need to master to unlock it. It's like leveling up in a spiritual sense.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So let's start with the first portal. What is it and what's the key to unlocking it?
The first portal is guarded by the Key of Dana, often translated as charity or generosity.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than just giving money.
Deeper.
Think of it like this. Imagine you have a friend who's going through a rough time. They've lost their job and are feeling really down. Now, you could just offer them some money to help them out. That's certainly generous, but Dana goes further. It's about giving your time, your energy, your attention, your love, without expecting anything in return. It's about being there for them, emotionally, listening to their struggles, offering encouragement and support. That kind of giving comes from a place of genuine care and compassion.
So it's about shifting our focus from me to we.
Precisely. Dana helps us break down the illusion of separateness and recognize our interconnectedness with all beings. It's like realizing that we're all in this together, that everyone is fighting their own battles. And by practicing Dana, we start to chip away at the walls we've built around ourselves and open ourselves up to a deeper sense of connection with others.
That makes sense. If we're clinging to our possessions and our ego, it's going to be pretty hard to move through that first portal. It's like trying to squeeze through a narrow doorway while carrying a ton of baggage.
Exactly. Clinging to the material world weighs us down, keeps us tethered to the lower realms of existence. Dana helps us lighten our load, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the richness of our relationships and our capacity to give without expecting anything in return.
So by practicing Dana, we're essentially prepping ourselves to move through that first portal and onto the next stage of the journey.
Right.
It's like we're training for a marathon, building up our endurance and strength.
That's a great way to put it. Each key builds upon the previous one, preparing us for the challenges ahead.
Okay, so we've unlocked the first portal with Dana. What awaits us at the second portal?
The second portal requires the key of sila, which translates to moral conduct or virtuous behavior.
Okay.
You could say it's the foundation of ethical living, the bedrock upon which spiritual growth can flourish. Imagine a beautiful temple built on a shaky foundation. No matter how ornate the structure, it's bound to crumble eventually. Sila is about creating a solid, stable base for our spiritual development.
So this is about living ethically following a moral code. But isn't that different across cultures and traditions?
Yes, but Sila goes beyond just following external rules. It's about cultivating a deep sense of integrity and aligning our actions with our highest understanding of what is right.
Right.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Think of it this way. Imagine you find a wallet on the street full of cash. You could easily keep it, no one would know. But Sila is about that inner voice that tells you to do the right thing to return the wallet to its owner, even if it means sacrificing potential personal gain. It's about acting in accordance with our values even when no one is watching.
That sounds like a pretty solid foundation for spiritual growth.
Mm.
If we're not living ethically, how can we expect to progress on the path? It's like trying to climb a mountain while dragging a heavy chain behind you.
Exactly. The text emphasizes that our actions have consequences not just in the physical world, but in the spiritual realm as well. Immoral actions create negative karma, which can hinder our spiritual progress. Think of it like creating debt. Every unethical action adds to that debt, weighing us down and making it harder to move forward on our path. Sila is about paying off that debt, purifying our intentions and actions, and creating a more harmonious inner landscape.
So Sila is like clearing the path of obstacles, removing the karmic roadblocks that are preventing us from moving forward. It's like clearing a hiking trail of debris, making it easier to reach the summit.
That's a good way to think about it. By cultivating Sila, we're creating a more spacious and harmonious inner environment, which allows us to perceive the world with greater clarity and make choices that are aligned with our highest good.
Okay, on to the third portal. What's the key that unlocks this one?
The third portal is access through Kshanti, which is often translated as patience or forbearance.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. You could get frustrated, honk your horn, yell at the other drivers.
Oh, yeah.
Or you could practice Kshanti, taking a few deep breaths, accepting the situation, and maybe even using the time to listen to some calming music. It's about choosing peace over reactivity.
Patience. So that's one I could definitely work on. But how does patience relate to spiritual enlightenment? I mean, it's not like we're going to reach nirvana by sitting patiently in traffic jams.
Of course not. But Kanti is about cultivating a deep sense of inner peace and equanimity, even in the face of challenges and adversity. It's about not letting external circumstances dictate our inner state. Think of it like developing a strong immune system. When we have a strong immune system, we're less likely to get sick, even when we're exposed to germs and viruses. Similarly, when we cultivate Kshanti, we become less reactive to the ups and downs of life, and we're able to maintain a sense of inner peace, even when things get tough.
So it's about developing that inner stillness, that unshakable center amidst the storms of life, like a sturdy tree that can withstand the strongest winds because it has deep roots.
Precisely, Kshanti helps us detach from our emotional reactions to external events and cultivate a more balanced and peaceful way of being. It's like learning to surf the waves of life instead of being tossed around by them.
I could see how that would be essential for navigating the spiritual path. If we're constantly reacting to everything that happens, we'll never make any progress. It's like trying to walk a tightrope while being bombarded by tennis balls.
The text warns that impatience and reactivity create turbulence within, which can cloud our judgment and lead us astray. It's like trying to see clearly through a raging storm. Kranti is about calming the storm within so we can see things with greater clarity and wisdom.
So Kshanti is like the anchor that keeps us steady, preventing us from being tossed about by the waves of emotion and external chaos.
Yeah,
It allows us to weather the storms and remain focused on our spiritual goals.
that's a powerful image. And it's through this cultivation of patience that we become better equipped to navigate the next stage of our journey, represented by the fourth portal.
Okay, we've made it through 3 portals. What's next? What awaits us at the 4th portal, and what key do we need to unlock it?
The fourth portal is unlocked by Virya, which is often translated as energy or diligence. But it's not about frantically running around trying to get things done. It's more about cultivating a sustained effort and an unwavering commitment to our spiritual practice. Imagine training for a marathon. It's not about sprinting all the time. It's about pacing yourself, showing up day after day, and putting in the consistent effort required to reach the finish line.
So this is where the real work begins. No more sitting around meditating. It's time to get things done.
Well, it's not so much about external activity. Virya is about cultivating an unwavering commitment to our spiritual practice and a persistent effort in our pursuit of enlightenment. It's about showing up for our practice even when we don't feel like it, even when we're tired, even when we're facing challenges and setbacks.
It's about staying the course even when things get tough.
Yeah.
Like a sailor navigating through stormy seas, keeping their eyes on the horizon, even when the waves are crashing all around them.
Exactly. Virya helps us overcome laziness, procrastination, and doubt those inner obstacles that can sabotage our efforts. It's about recognizing that spiritual growth is a marathon, not a sprint, and it requires a sustained effort and a willingness to persevere even when the going gets tough.
It's like the fuel that keeps us moving forward on the path.
Yeah.
Without it, we'd just be idling, going nowhere.
That's a great way to put it. Without Virya, our spiritual aspirations can easily fade into wishful thinking. We might have grand visions of enlightenment, but without the sustained effort to back them up, they'll remain just that, visions.
So we need to stoke the fires of Virya to keep that momentum going. And I'm guessing this is especially important as we approach the fifth portal, which I'm assuming represents a more advanced stage of the journey.
You're right. The fifth portal requires the key of dhyana, which is often translated as contemplation or meditation. This is where we dive deeper into the inner landscape, exploring the subtler realms of consciousness. Imagine a vast, unexplored ocean. The surface might be calm and serene, but beneath the surface lies a whole world teeming with life, beauty, and mystery. Dhyana is about diving into those depths, exploring the hidden wonders of our own being.
Now, this is more like it. Finally, some good old-fashioned meditation. I've been trying to meditate more regularly, but it's a struggle to quiet the mind. It's like a room full of chattering monkeys.
Dhyana is indeed about cultivating a deep state of meditative absorption. But it's not just about sitting in silence. It's about training the mind to become one-pointed, to focus intently on a single object or idea.
Right.
Think of it like using a magnifying glass to focus sunlight onto a single point. When we focus our attention in this way, it becomes incredibly powerful.
It's about developing that laser-like focus, cutting through all the distractions. Like a sculptor meticulously chipping away at a block of stone, revealing the hidden beauty within.
Precisely, Dhyana helps us transcend the chatter of the mind and access deeper levels of awareness. It's about recognizing that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes the thoughts.
So this is where we really start to pierce the veils of illusion and connect with our true nature. It's like waking up from a dream and realizing that there's a whole other reality beyond the limitations of our ordinary perceptions.
Exactly. Dhyana is essential for developing the clarity and insight we need to progress on the path. It's like cleaning a window so we can see the world with greater clarity and precision.
Okay, we're nearing the end of our journey through the seven portals. We've cultivated generosity, moral conduct, patience, diligence, and meditative focus. What lies ahead as we approach the sixth portal? What key is needed to unlock this stage of the journey?
The sixth portal is unlocked by prajna, which is often translated as wisdom or insight. But it's not just about accumulating knowledge or information. Prajna is about developing a deep, intuitive understanding of the true nature of reality, seeing things as they really are. It's like the difference between looking at a map and actually exploring a new territory. The map can give you a general idea, but the real understanding comes from direct experience.
Wisdom. That sounds like the culmination of all the previous keys. It's like the fruit that grows on the tree after years of nurturing and tending to its roots.
In many ways, it is. Prajna arises from the integration of all the previous keys, from the purification of our actions, the cultivation of patience, the diligent effort, the deep contemplation. It's the fruit of our spiritual practice.
So it's about seeing through the illusions of the material world and recognizing the underlying unity of all things. Like realizing that the waves are not separate from the ocean. They are simply different expressions of the same water.
Precisely, prajna arises from the integration of all the previous keys, from the purification of our actions, the cultivation of patience, the diligent effort, the deep contemplation. It's the fruit of our spiritual practice.
It's like the light bulb finally going off, that aha moment where everything clicks into place, all the pieces of the puzzle suddenly fitting together to reveal a clear and beautiful picture.
That's a great way to describe it. Prajna allows us to see the world with new eyes, with a clarity and understanding that transcends our previous limitations. It's like finally putting on the right pair of glasses and seeing the world in sharp focus for the first time.
Okay, we've arrived at the final portal, the seventh portal. What is the key that unlocks this ultimate gateway? This must be where the real magic happens, right?
The seventh and final portal is unlocked by karuna, which is often translated as compassion. It's the culmination of the spiritual journey, the flowering of all the virtues we've cultivated along the way.
Compassion. That seems like a fitting key to the final portal. It's like the sun finally breaking through the clouds after a long and stormy night.
Karuna is about extending the wisdom and understanding we've cultivated to all beings, to embrace all of existence with love and empathy. Think of it like a mother's love for her child, a love that is unconditional, boundless, and all-encompassing.
So it's not enough to just achieve enlightenment for ourselves. We need to share it to help others achieve liberation as well. It's like reaching the summit of a mountain and then sending down ropes to help others climb up too.
Exactly. Karuna is the embodiment of the bodhisattva ideal, the selfless aspiration to alleviate the suffering of all beings. It's about recognizing that we are all interconnected, that the liberation of one is ultimately the liberation of all.
It's like the overflowing of our own spiritual realization extending outwards to embrace the entire universe. Like a single candle lighting countless others, spreading light and warmth throughout the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Karuna, is the ultimate expression of our interconnectedness. The recognition that the liberation of one is the liberation of all. And it's through this understanding that we unlock the final portal and step into the boundless realm of enlightenment.
Wow, that's an incredibly inspiring vision. But it also raises a question for me. If we're aiming for that kind of universal compassion, does that mean we all need to become bodhisattvas, delaying our own liberation to help others?
That's a great question, and it's one that the Voice of the Silence encourages us to contemplate deeply. The text doesn't offer a simple answer. Remember, it presents these two paths, the path of knowledge and the path of compassion, as choices, each with its own unique challenges and rewards.
So if we're aiming for that kind of universal compassion, does that mean we all need to become bodhisattvas, delaying our own liberation to help others? Is that the only way to truly embody karuna?
Well, that's a question, that has been pondered by spiritual seekers for centuries.
Right.
And the Voice of the Silence doesn't offer like a definitive answer.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing the inherent tension between these two paths, the yearning for individual liberation and the call to selfless service.
So is it a choice we have to make? Do we choose one path or the other? Or is there a way to integrate them to find a balance between personal enlightenment and compassionate action in the world?
I think that's where the real journey begins.
Yeah.
The text seems to suggest that it's not about choosing one path over the other,
Yeah.
but about recognizing that both paths are ultimately interconnected. The wisdom we gain through solitary practice can deepen our capacity for compassion. And the compassion we cultivate through serving others can illuminate our own path to awakening.
It was like a dance, a constant interplay between these two forces, each informing and enriching the other. We might find ourselves drawn to periods of intense introspection and solitude, while at other times we feel a strong pull to engage with the world and contribute to the well-being of others.
Exactly. And perhaps the real challenge is not to choose one path over the other, but to find a way to weave them together to create a life that embodies both wisdom and compassion, both self-realization and selfless service.
That brings to mind the image of a tapestry, with threads of different colors and textures woven together to create a beautiful and intricate design. Each thread is essential to the overall composition.
I love that analogy. It speaks to the idea that our individual journeys with their unique challenges and triumphs are all threads woven into the larger tapestry of existence.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the Voice of the Silence, what would you say is the most essential message for our listeners to take away? If they could only remember one thing from this exploration, what would it be?
I think the key takeaway is this. The path to enlightenment is not a one-size-fits-all journey. It's a process of self-discovery, a continuous unfolding of our own unique potential. And whether we choose to focus on personal liberation or on the liberation of all beings, the journey begins with a commitment to understanding ourselves, to cultivating the virtues that can guide us on our paths.
It's about recognizing that we all have the potential for awakening, that the seeds of enlightenment are already planted within us, waiting to be nurtured and brought to fruition.
Exactly. And the journey is not about becoming someone we're not, but about uncovering the truth of who we already are.
Beautiful. So as you go about your day, consider this. What veils of illusion might you be holding on to? What beliefs, habits, or patterns are obscuring your true nature? And what steps can you take to start lifting those veils one by one?
This deep dive is just a beginning. We invite you to explore further to discover the answers within and to continue your own unique journey of self-discovery.